What does Amanda the Adventurer 2 hide from the player behind the scenes? In Amanda the Adventurer 2, we'll be spending a ton of time at the scariest place a kid can imagine, which is of course the library. We won't be sitting crisscross applesauce today though. Oh no, today we're watching television, and demons are on every channel. In typical Amanda the Adventurer fashion, you'll be playing through a series of eerie tapes, unraveling the sinister story behind this grim children's show. In this video, we'll be taking a look out of bounds, and behind the scenes in search of things not meant to be seen by the player. Like half of the monster Wooly hidden beyond the library walls. We'll be breaking plenty of stuff as well, which is always a good time. That said, I hope you enjoy today's look behind the scenes of Amanda the Adventurer 2. Now, instead of one massive recap, I'll be breaking it up into parts as we continue forward. Before we get started though, the menu screen holds an interesting secret that would be impossible to notice without the power of hacks. For those who don't know, I previously covered this game's demo where I learned that the menu is a mostly intact copy of the library map. Despite a few subtle changes, this stayed true in the second chapter's final build, and even more than you'd think. This is still the same library that was used in that version, including the office that was previously inaccessible. Now, as we start a new game, a cutscene begins where the mysterious figure stands behind a table in some serious noir lighting. This feels more like an interrogation than a first meeting, but I'll take this over the giant lanky monster any day. After a short sequence in the car, we'll arrive at the library, where the mysterious figure passes us a walkie-talkie, dipping out before the scary shenanigans begin. Restarting this first cutscene, we'll see that the reuse of assets doesn't stop at the title screen. This is the very same attic level that we spent the first game exploring, and this includes a couple of assets that were found out of bounds there. A small yard sale's worth of furniture is floating outside the attic walls, and these were also found in the original game as well. The disembodied head of the entity is still beneath the attic door, but let's turn our attention to the mysterious figure. First off, this model looks a lot more detailed than it did before, although that doesn't make them any less creepy. There are tons of theories surrounding this character's identity, but we later learn that this is actually a woman named Joanne Cook. I was curious what would happen if I unmasked this mysterious character early, and that was definitely a mistake. By removing her mask, we can see the entirety of her face, including the claw marks, and more importantly, her lack of eyeballs. During our short stay in the attic, she talks to the player from behind the table, during which time we're stuck viewing this from a fixed perspective. Because of this, her mouth doesn't move, and the layer containing her eyes isn't needed either, resulting in this legendary blind ventriloquism performance. Unfortunately, the cutscene in the car and in front of the library are pre-rendered videos, so we can't break them. But now that we're inside the library, there's something I missed at first that's kind of funny. The walkie-talkie she hands you isn't actually in her pocket. That's what's a complete and utter lie. Instead, we'll find it directly beneath her feet, floating beneath the level. When Joanne reaches her hand into her jacket to grab it, it flies up super fast from out of bounds and into her hand. Despite this animation being so fast, you can watch this taking place from your usual perspective, although in normal time it appears as a momentary flicker that's pretty hard to catch. After this, Joanne exits the library as the player looks the other direction, and what you can't see at this point is that the door duplicated as soon as she grabbed it. She holds this walking pose for a moment before she and her magical door unload at the same time, the real door taking its original place. I managed to bring Joanne back though, and then loaded in the old model that was found by this desk in the demo. We're now able to see both these models side by side in game, despite the fact that Joanne's new model has a door stuck to her arm. It also looks like the old model is a lot shorter than the new one, though it's hard to tell for sure since the one is just a static model in a hunched over position. At this point, I've had enough of the doors, so I tore them down and opened up the entrance to the library. There are concrete steps outside with some railings on top, but when I tried to walk on them, I realized it was all a sham. I fell straight through into the void. I didn't fall infinitely like I expected though, and there was a giant invisible barrier for me to walk on. It's interesting because there's nowhere we can't go like this. We can just stroll beneath each room, including the locked office near the entrance. Unfortunately, there's no way back up, so I'm completely stuck. Reloading my save, we can continue this level from within the map this time, using books to unlock the bicycle lock and obtain the first tape. Sadly, the videos seen in these tapes are similar to the car cutscene from earlier. They're pre-rendered videos that appear on top of the TV screen, meaning we cannot move the camera around inside them or break them in any way. During the first tape, we'll help Amanda plan a trip to various places by counting and obtaining coins. A piggy bank appears in the room, and we'll have to collect coins by placing and removing them from the X on the TV stand. When this puzzle is completed, the piggy bank explodes, revealing the tape that was hidden inside. I wasn't happy about my piggy friend exploding, so I brought them back to life. I feel better having this porky companion by my side, but what I wasn't expecting was this practically zombified version here. I later realized that this version appears a bit later in the game, but for now, I just think it's interesting interesting seeing them compared like this. What's neat is that by moving the camera, we'll see the broken one is visible both inside and out, whereas the undamaged one is not. And hey, if this tormented little girl can budget effectively while being trapped inside videotapes, so can you! Just hopefully without the trapped part. So Rocket Money is a sponsor of this video, and I know the concept of budgeting your money has you sitting at the edge of your seat in excitement. But hear me out. Rocket Money is an all-in-one personal finance app that helps you cancel subscriptions, lower bills, and manage your money better. Something that instantly lowers my stress levels. Rocket Money shows you how your money is being used at all times, and identifies top spending categories with insights on how you can stay within your budget better, which is honestly super helpful. Rocket Money will notify you about upcoming charges or when your balance is low to help you avoid overdraft and late fees. Perfect for budgeting your magical train trip through the loneliness of the void. And you know, one other nifty feature is having Rocket Money help you cancel subscriptions you've forgotten to cancel. Like when you signed up for that one streaming service that was $10, but now it's somehow 4 times that amount. Unglorious. So, to save more and spend less, join the over 5 million members using Rocket Money today. Go to rocketmoney.com/horrorScoped or click the link in the description to get started for free. And a big thanks to Rocket Money for supporting me as a creator. The piggy bank is saved. Our Porky Pal aside, we can continue on to the next tape. And this tape will help Amanda put her toys away and then get ready for bed, but not before completing a surprisingly terrifying task. She'll ask us to grab her a nightlight, and upon leaving the TV, we'll find that the library is completely dark. Something you may have not known is that the clouds we type our responses into is actually a fully rendered particle effect. When moving the camera around it, we'll see that it's an ever-moving gray cloud floating directly in front of the screen. I thought it was a lot bigger during gameplay, but really, it's just a wimpy little cloud. The text prompt and the pause button aren't objects in the game though, and the text that appears above the cloud only exists as a piece of the game's UI. That means we can move the camera around, and it will always remain in the same position. When the power goes out, we'll see that the lights just flicker in the entire building before a total blackout occurs. Well, sort of. Both the lamps and lights in the ceiling are still lit up and visible, but the light they usually emit just doesn't exist at the moment. How the heck am I supposed to find a nightlight in the dark though? I didn't feel like stumbling around the shadows like a fool, so I channeled my inner technician and turned the lights back on, which made it a lot easier to see. I realized here that despite the lights currently being on, the nightlight is still crazy bright. It's illuminating the room wherever I carry it, and I'm completely sold on whatever brand this thing is. After the video finishes, we'll use a wooden cube containing several puzzles in order to obtain the next tape. The solutions are found within the video we just played through, and we can only interact with the puzzles after the block is moved onto the table. I wanted to know what would happen if we broke this sequence, and so I kinda broke the box and forced the tape out. It's not an ideal solution, but hey, it works. The good news is that we can put the tape in and continue as if we never broke anything. And as we do, a handful of monkeys spawn into the map. In this tape, we build a birdhouse with Amanda and Wooly, interacting with these monkeys at the right time in order to solve the puzzle and obtain the next tape. There really isn't a whole lot going on during this time, so I decided to mess with the monkeys a bit before moving on. First, I made the Speak No Evil monkey giant and moved them onto the seat next to the TV. This scene is completely terrifying in every way, and I seriously regret doing this now. Even worse, we can walk up to this nightmarish chimp and interact with them, and they move around as usual. Seeing how terrifying this whole thing was, I probably shouldn't have put another giant monkey outside the window, but that's a mistake I'll have to live with. It's possible that these apes might be the scariest thing in this entire game, which is both ridiculous and hilarious. After successfully completing each of these puzzles, the monkeys will appear stacked on each other's shoulders behind us, and from a third-person view, we can see that there are no circus tricks involved. They instantly appear in a stack behind us. Their purpose here is to hand us another tape, this time sending us on a treasure hunt with Amanda and Wooly. At the end of our little adventure, Amanda is disappointed to find that the treasure wasn't as glorious as she'd expected. She's not leaving without something to show for her troubles, and the entity pops out from behind the TV, awaiting the player to pick up one of the stuffed animals that appeared in the library. From outside the map, we can watch this from behind the TV, and from this angle, you can see that this monster spawns in behind the cart, clipping partially through the wall. Their head is also bent straight down into the body, phasing through the TV a bit as they rise into view. The model contorts pretty weirdly during these animations, which only gets worse, as you'll soon see. For now, we place a toy into their hands, which they're not all too happy about, and because this is the first time we've played this tape, I believe we're guaranteed to die no matter which one we choose. I found an interesting way to break this scene, but we'll get to that a bit later on. As they get angry, we can watch in bullet time as their hands start shaking, but the toy doesn't move at all. The toy then splits in half with a rain of stuffing exploding from inside. The fireworks show is short-lived, unfortunately, and the beast lunges on the player, diving forward into the strangest yoga pose I've ever seen. The game then sends you to the title screen, forcing you to play through the first tape all over again. Things go a bit off the rails this time, and we're made to complete a train puzzle using these pieces. This will provide us with another tape that allows us to continue the main story. There's a specific orientation that you need to arrange the pieces in so that the train passes through each gate in the correct order. Just to see what would happen, I duplicated a few of the pieces and began attaching them in various places. And surprisingly, the train drove across them as usual. I said we were breaking this game though, so I made this small train toy a slightly larger one. Somehow it still functioned as intended, gliding across the track and clipping through the gates even though it's twice their size. At the end of the track, it stops at the station, but it's just too big, so it gets flung back onto the track. Before we move on for this puzzle, there's an interesting object hidden here that I don't believe shows up during gameplay. Hidden in the game files is an object called Train Table. It's a small play table with a similar design to the train carpet this puzzle takes place on. The carpet is a bit bigger, and it makes me wonder if this puzzle was originally meant to take place atop this object instead of on the floor. During the following tape, there's not really a whole lot going on, as we basically just help Amanda get ready for the day. So we're going to skip ahead to the following one, When You're Feeling Bad. Amanda isn't feeling the best, so Wooly tells her a story in hopes of cheering her up. Our job is to open these storybooks that appear on the table in order to progress the story properly. The entity nearly attacks you, but Amanda calls them off until you finish the story. This happens again when the story is complete, and you'll live as long as you didn't make any mistakes. Restarting this portion of the game, I wanted a better look at these pop-up storybooks. To do this, I expanded the book to the size of the table, and this made it a lot easier to see the dragon inside. It's also cool watching it open up in slow motion, since this animation is hard to appreciate in regular time. It's easy to select the wrong book by accident, so I made sure to avoid this mistake the best way I knew how, by making all 4 books massive. There are no mistakes to be made here. These books are bigger than I am. If I chose the wrong book at this point, I deserve whatever goes wrong. Speaking of which, when the entity shows up behind you, they'll appear instantly while your back is turned, lunging forward just in front of the player's face. Now, as I said before, this monster's animations are a bit more wonky than you may have realized. As they crawl backwards towards the ceiling, their limbs rotate and snap in different directions, clipping through themselves on multiple occasions. They eventually settle into a comfortable position, hanging upside down the ceiling, which is when I decided to mess with them a bit. So I gave them a slick new haircut and removed their teeth. This did not make them any less menacing though. In fact, it made it even worse. You're welcome. Because I picked the wrong books during Wooly's story, Amanda gets upset and the monster attacks, still missing the assets we stole from them. In this attack sequence, they'll climb over the table and swing at us, stopping in this pose that's both terrifying and hilarious. Completing the story in the right order, I moved the monster out of their normal position and over to this wall, and I was curious how this would affect the cutscene. As you can see here, they decided physics were for nerds and ran straight through the wall, getting upset and screeching in the void, crawling back into the map, and stopping in the spot we placed them earlier. So technically, they're not attacking you, we're just kind of in their way during the sequence. Continuing forward, we'll be given a hammer that will be used to break a glass case containing the treasure hunting tape. When the monster appears to receive the treasure, we'll grab the Wooly found in the case we broke earlier. The monstrous bellow of an unseen creature catches their attention, and they run past you, breaking down the door to the previously locked office. Now, as I said earlier, I found an interesting way to sequence break this tape. The first time we play through the treasure hunting video, we don't have the hammer, and so Wooly is out of our reach. But what if he wasn't? During our first viewing of this tape, we'll be forced to give the entity a stuffed animal. And so of course, I chose the hammer. I force spawned the hammer and went to open the case, grabbing Wooly long before I was ever supposed to. By handing him to the monster, he will be torn up and the monster will scurry off as expected. We even gained access to the office and subsequently the tape inside, essentially skipping a huge chunk of the game. The only reason we're unable to finish the game at this point is because there are keys needed to do so. and we can't access them without completing the tapes ahead. Jumping back to present time, we can watch in slow motion as the entity leaves the room. From this angle, you see that Wooly just can't catch a break. He's dragged along as the monster jumps into the strange pose and flies away. You can't usually see this because your camera pans away as they shove past you, but from this angle, it looks pretty messed up. The door to the office is instantly broken as well, and the monster never even reaches it. Continuing on to the next tape, we'll see some interesting visuals as Amanda and Wooly find a box of things that need fixed. At this point, we'll be forced to find the pieces inside of a frog on the table behind us. Each time a new object is pulled out of the box, the items in the frog change, and we'll have to grab the one that corresponds with the item on screen. I forced each item to spawn in at the same time though, and it's looking a bit crowded now. I hadn't realized how many of these objects there were until they were all loaded in at once. I feel bad for our froggy pal though, so I let them leave early and remove them from the map. We now have some floating tubes and objects, including a beating heart that isn't attached to anything, which is almost more disgusting. With the frog puzzle finished, we'll now continue on to the next tape. Do you feel safe? In order to solve the final set of puzzles, we'll burn the solution onto the microfilm sheet by placing it against the TV at the right time. As we return, Joanne will be waiting for us in the office. When she leaves, we'll watch as she walks through the door and heads toward the bookshelves, stopping in place before she unloads. Everything but her mask vanished here, which is a glitch that occurs based on the camera's position, which we'll be seeing again in a moment. After this takes place, we'll head back through the library, solving the final set of puzzles to obtain the keys needed to unlock some hidden desk compartments. We'll then press this red button, prompting the door behind us to open as Joanne breaks the tape with a hammer. The entity drops down on top of her a moment later, attacking her off screen as the game comes to an end. From another perspective, we can watch as this mysterious light floats upwards from the broken tape. As she attempts to break the next tape, the entity appears in the void space above the map, lunging down as the ceiling collapses and pinning Joanne to the desk. The monster reaches out to grab the player, and when the camera is turned away, both of these models shift into their next poses. And finally, the entity bites down at the back of Joanne's neck, freezing in this hilarious pose as the player heads down the hatch, leading to the game's credits. Now, there's a secret ending you can achieve by obtaining a hidden cassette tape, but first there are a couple things hidden within this level that I'd like to check out. In the game files, there's a collection of objects called Amanda Test Mesh, and when they're enabled, we can see how the creators mapped this level out before it was finalized. Using what is called Pro Builder, the developers create a rough draft of the finished product, and this white boxing was eventually cleaned up and textured, resulting in the product you see here. So Pro Builder is something that I use personally. You can block things out, and then if you choose to, you can export it as an object and take into different 3D software to actually transform that blocky white boxing into the final product. Next, there's a wardrobe hidden in the game files that you may recognize. This is the same asset as the one used in the first game, where we originally obtained a bucket. There are a few of these wardrobes placed in the level, but they do not contain a bucket. We can't interact with the others, but we can open the one in the office. What's interesting is that the wardrobe lock has the same code as the lockbox, both being 3183. When we input this code, the doors will open, and inside we'll find a key. This key is completely functional too, meaning we can unlock the desk compartments with it just the same as the others. Now, as the secret ending begins, Joanne will approach the desk and take her mask off, and this time her face is fully intact. She is definitely a lot less scary with eyeballs, and the fact her mouth moves when she talks helps a bit too. As we head back into the escape room, the lights will go out, and immediately after, the monstrous Wooly attacks Joanne and is illuminated in the center of the room. You likely didn't realize this, but during the sequence, we're actually moved into a separate office. This area is stored completely apart from the regular map, and is only a floating black room with a few pieces of furniture inside. Something else you'll realize is that Joanne was never actually attacked. Instead, she's in the original office, ducking beside the desk, completely safe and uneaten. Well, until we move the camera closer, that is. All of her body unloads, and only her eyeballs are left floating here since her mask was unloaded. This is also a great opportunity to see Wooly with the lights on, and doing so reveals that he's only half of a monster. He has no claws on his front legs, and the back half of his body is completely missing. That doesn't make him any less terrifying, especially when he lunges at the player, unhinging his massive jaws. And with that, that's everything I found hidden, out of bounds, and behind the scenes in Amanda the Adventurer 2. Thanks for watching, and cheers!